What's up everybody, Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video, and in this video we're going to be breaking down the Cloud9 versus T1 match, because the top 8 teams that are going to be at the First Strike main event that Riot themselves are hosting have been set. I'm going to break that down at the end, but Cloud9 and T1 had an insane match, and I want to break down a lot of set plays, strategies, meta talk, and much more, so that you can learn exactly what the top teams are doing, and you can learn some actionable tips to take in your games in the process. But go on over to the GameLeap website right now. I know a lot of you have been asking for more advanced content, and all of that and more is going to be on the GameLeap website. So if you want that, go check it out in the links down below. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now for reference, this is the First Strike qualifier match, where the winner of this is going to make it into the First Strike tournament, and the loser gets cut completely. First off, I really want to break down the actual buys for that first pistol round, because I've been seeing this more and more. Look at the fact that there's only one person using a Ghost Shinobi, and the majority of players are rocking either Classic plus Armor or Frenzy, and specifically T1 is going to be rocking the majority of Armor because of the play they're about to make here. You see, Skadoodle on Jett is going to be hyper aggressive D side on pistol round, and I absolutely love this. Look at how he instantly dashes to close the gap between mid and tiles, and he's gonna kill a droning Vice. You see, quick executes like this can catch enemies off guard, and even pros when they're using abilities. But as a takeaway for you, being extra aggressive on pistol rounds, especially when you have some form of mobility, can completely cut the enemy off guard, where in their mind, they don't think you could possibly be there. However, using Jett's dash in this way circumvented that expectation and allowed him to get that first free kill pickoff. Now, after he peeks for instant follow-up, he's gonna smoke off the doorway to prevent them from pushing or put some pressure into them pushing. Then he's gonna updraft to get more information, and he sees that there's multiple enemies there looking to punish him. Now his allied Omen is actually gonna help him here by paranoiing the opening, and it prevents enemies from pushing onto Skadoodle for free. Now this is something that you should be doing often when you have a buddy that is in an active engagement being aggressive. Characters like Sova can use a defensive recon arrow to prevent a follow-up. You know, paranoia's flashes. There's so many different abilities that could directly help an ally that's in trouble, and it usually is on you to help them get out of a sticky situation, especially if they did get that opening pick. You should be doing whatever you can to try to make it so they live or they can go in for more. Now Skadoodle is going to be able to clean this up with his team collapsing, and he got a huge round win right off the bat. Now for these next plays we're going to break down, this is a huge breakout fight that's about to start on A side. You see, T1 Spider, or Saya player formerly known as, gets revealed here, but acknowledges that it was a team engage, and instead of retreating, pushes. He checks a close left first and sweeps across, gets that first kill, straight flick to the second kill, which is a fantastic kill by the way, and then he resets, gets another before he dies, but 3 for 1, that's an amazing deal. Now as a takeaway for you, sometimes when your team is either going in or you're too far committed, when your information gets known, you should instead just engage, because enemies know where you are. You don't want to try to retreat and get traded out for free, but you see this way too often where a player gets revealed, and instead of taking the straight up duel, they try to hide behind a box or they try to run away, and they get caught out and killed for free instead. Now moving on to later in this round, Brax actually makes a vital mistake here trying to refrag, but actually puts himself in a no-win scenario. You see, he fired after tapping the spike, and it basically let the enemies know that he was not sticking and that they have no reason to peek, and he put himself in a scenario where it was actually impossible for him to win at all. The big takeaway for you is you need to be playing for the win, and cutting off information towards enemies can force enemies to peek into you rather than you firing, giving away your position, chasing down enemies, and never forcing them to check whether or not you're sticking it because you already gave away that precious information. Now in this next round, it was crazy, and there's lots of stuff to learn from when we break it down. You see, Tens, first off, psychos in with the judge and takes site control instantly because he knows the enemies are pretty poor and he wants to take this site control as quickly as possible. Now, a lot of Jetts are way too scared to do this, but honestly, a little bit of crazy is needed for Jetts to truly pop off using these dashes aggressively. You're seeing that a lot. You saw it from Skadoodle earlier on in the pistol round, and you're seeing it from Tens. Tens does it a lot, where you're not just using dashes to get away or to fly at someone with the shotgun or whatever the case may be. It's actually being used a lot more for transitioning through open space, you know, from one cover to the next, because if an enemy jiggle peeks you when you're far away, it's a lot harder to capitalize versus when you're right at the angle or the turning point where you can easily chase them even if they jiggle peek you. So this is really being used a lot, and I think it's going to be something that a lot of Jetts need to learn if you really want to reach those upper echelons of this prestigious character. Now that being said, Relic is actually going to make a pretty big mistake here. He gets overconfident fighting for tree room control and dies to spider. Now, I get why he wanted to control this room, but it's incredibly risky here. Enemies could be cat rotating from mid or tree or up towards breakable glass, and he's essentially taking a true 50-50 here. Now, I'm sure you've seen this in your ranked games where you take site control and players push out, get too aggressive, and as a result, they actually just feed and die, and then they lose the round altogether. Now, that being said, as a takeaway, I don't think that this is a terrible play in some scenarios. However, if he really wanted to make this play, I think a character that has a flash would be far better. If you have some sort of utility that can aid in this challenge, rather than just dry peeking a 50-50. And it's even worse than that because he actually gave Dazed a gun when Dazed didn't have one. So he actually upgraded the enemy's economy for free, and it really allowed the enemy T1 to trade out much more efficiently just because of this one mistake. And if a pro can make it, so can you in your ranked games. Now, going in further into the round, everything went right for T1. However, they made a really bad mistake as well, where they didn't track the time correctly and ended up losing a round based on the clock not being able to defuse, or they didn't give themselves enough time. Now, the big thing that you need to understand about defuse play in general, trying to play for the defuse, there's this constant balance between disciplined play and quick tempo. You can't be disciplined, you know, check everything when you don't have a lot of time, but you want to be as disciplined as possible because you want to make sure not to just, you know, forgo a corner and get killed by someone just sitting there with a judge or whatever the case may be. This could also be applicable to your games. However, this is one of the most important things that you need to learn to get right, because if they just had a quickened pace here, they could have easily diffused this with time. I mean, they won it by a 3v1, and they could have afforded to play quite a bit more sloppy and still at the end of the day had one person remaining to defuse, and they could have had someone stick it, force to the half. Whatever the case may be, tempo and timing should always be something in your head, and if you can't afford to play discipline because you don't have enough time, just speed things up and push in. It's better to give yourself a chance of winning than, you know, winning the fight but not winning the round. Now, moving on to this later round, I really wanted to break down this amazing textbook execution combo that you can all use in your games to basically get some really easy kills. Now, look at Brax's positioning here. He's just going to be hiding here temporarily, and this is a pretty common place that you need to flush out with utility so you don't have to peek it yourself. But Brax is going to hide there with a frenzy, and his breach is actually going to concussion main, and then at the exact same time that the concussion goes off, Brax is going to swing and get a free kill with the frenzy up against better guns. Now, this is very simple, this is very effective, and you could do this with so many different other abilities. Even abilities that demand some sort of action, like movement, like a shock arrow, for instance. If an enemy is jumping away from a shock arrow, are they going to be perfectly accurate and going to be able to, you know, trade out with you very easily? No, they're not going to be able to do so. Also, you could just do flashes, of course, that's the basic one, but things like concussion, things like Graze's paint shells, things like recon arrow, the list goes on and on. Just ability combos is the future of Valorant. Get the head start right now, grab a buddy and start doing this more, and you're going to get some really easy kills, I guarantee it. Now, this next part we're going to break down, I want you to really notice how up against poor opponents, they have good weapons and the enemy don't have good weapons, they're all rocky pistols, they completely just give up mid. You see, mid is very difficult to take on Ascent when you're on pistols because of the long sightlines and things like that, and I absolutely love that they triple-double B and A. Now, that being said, look at the positioning that Sky took here aggressively, and this is a corner that I'm sure you have hidden, you've seen people hide in your ranked games all the time. Now, I really want you to see how his teammate sells it here. His Sova is gonna spray and keep the aggro all on him. He's even gonna reload right in front of the frame so that the enemy team is constantly thinking about where this guy is spraying from, and he is really selling the fact that he's there. He's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Now, when the enemy have all their attention on that, Skadoodle is gonna swing and get a whole bunch of easy kills here, simply just crouching and using recoil control with the Spectre up against much weaker guns. Now, this is textbook bait play, and this is something that is so easy to incorporate into your games as well. It's really easy, and the opportunity cost is very low when an enemy doesn't have anything going on, they're walking up and they're like, hey, let's check this cubby because nothing's going on, I don't see any enemies, might as well, things are slow right now. But when they want to not only punish an enemy they know is close, but they have all their attention on an enemy, they're usually going to become more blind to other things, other cubbies and things like that. And that's true across the board at any rank, all the way up to pro play, and even more so in the lower ranks. This is something that you should be setting up consistently, and if this clip gave you any indication, the results are phenomenal. Now, for this last clip that I want to break down, I want to do a coach sit down where I break down the play and the strategy behind the play so you can actually learn some of the big macro strategies behind routing and executions and things like that. Now, I really want you to see how Spider and Vice take control of mid here. Now, this is really, really strong, and before they execute onto the site of B, they're gonna work up mid together, and Spider's gonna directly smoke back of mid, and then he's gonna smoke the CT to B entrance, and they're gonna clear courtyard at the same time. So typically, you'll see smokes being used on courtyard, but you don't have to do that because Spider and Vice took control of courtyard. Now, this is really amazing because anyone that's playing CT to B entrance, which turns out to be the enemy Sova, he's gonna be completely caught off. He's not gonna be able to see enemies enter at all. If he wants to commit, it's gonna be really easy for him to die. He's gonna have a very hard time to do so, and the T1 breach is gonna ult onto the site and completely flush the middle section, all the areas near Bo, and basically that's gonna push anyone else back onto site, which is the Killjoy. So they basically set up a scenario here where they have control of mid, they cut off the person from CT to B, they ulted on the site and take site control, trade out with the Killjoy, and because of the smoke mid that Saya player put up, they are gonna be extremely afraid of pushing mid. They're gonna be extremely afraid of mid in general. Now, on top of that, because of this, C9 is gonna make a really vital mistake here and never retake courtyard control. And when they push in, they really get gummed up with Sova's ultimate, and Spider is gonna clean them up from courtyard with ease. Everything from the setup to the execution here was amazing from T1, and it really goes to show some of the faults of C9. And ultimately, C9 gets completely eliminated from the tournament, and they will not be among the 8 teams that are going to be in the Riot-hosted First Strike main event in NA. Now, for those of you who don't know, the 8 teams that made it are Envy, 100 Thieves, Renegades, Sentinels, Immortals, TSM, FaZe Clan, and T1. And we're going to be looking forward to some amazing games. My personal favorite to win is Sentinels, but 100 Thieves have been evolving faster than ever, and if these games have showed you anything, T1 is revitalized better than they ever have been. Skadoodle is back in top form, and new talent like Spider playing better than ever. It's gonna be an absolutely crazy tournament, but I definitely want you to tell me in the comments down below, who do you think is gonna take home the gold for the First Strike tournament? And definitely go check out the GameLeap website if you want in-depth breakdowns of advanced plays and videos just like this one. I know a lot of you have been asking for that advanced content, so do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below. But that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for coming by. I'm Coach Mills, and of course, until next time.